we had an incredibly brief meeting yesterday in which I said I wasn't going to ask him any questions at all. Because in the days a while ago when I used to Newsnight Review, I was told under no circumstances was one ever allowed to have a conversation in the green room beforehand, because the audience would always be aware that we'd had a version of the discussion beforehand. We have had no discussion, and I'm not really familiar with Jonas's work, although I have, of course, been around the exhibition. So what I'm going to do is ask some rather basic questions. He said to make them straightforward and comprehensible. And to begin with, I just want to find out more about you, which I haven't been able to get from the books about you. Born in West Berlin.
Yes.
So brought up in West Berlin when West Berlin was very isolated.
Yeah, a very special situation, you know. So West Berlin was, we made the joke all the time, there was east in every direction, you know,
yeah.
So all around. And a very special situation because like an island, you know, and for me as a child, it was, the wall was as normal as cars or trees and houses, you know. And when I grew up, then I understood what's the fact about this wall. And so it was a very special situation, and when the wall came down, it was like a surprise to have.
So you were 20 when
Yeah. So
you were at the academy?
Yeah. No, I started after this. I started the academy, it was 21. And but it was kind of, a very special surprise that your own city, imagine next to London is another London. You have no idea about it, you know. So
it's
really crazy. The city was a double afterwards,
right.
and the people were so close to us in a way because it's the same city, but also so different, because they had a totally different experience in life, and so this was a very, very strange but very interesting situation. So it's.
But West Berlin is now nostalgic for the old West Berlin, isn't it?
Sure, now it's history, isn't it?
Yes.
It's 25 years now, isn't it? So it's a bit strange, and you have to explain it. Imagine there's a new generation, they are 25, and they grew up after all this, and so you have to explain the whole situation, how it was in this.
And so what was it like when the wall came down for you?
Yeah, this was, it's not. I have to say that this night when the wall came down was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. I've never seen in my life so many old people crying. And the nice thing,
the Easterners?
From both sides, because they all had the experience of this horror Second World War, and afterwards there were, also on the East side there was an idea in the beginning which was nice. It was the idea that we are all the same. We are not. There was one thing after the war, I think, that the people thought about, to think about a new system for us all, and this was one opportunity, and I think that it went so bad in the end with the East side, was also a problem of the structure of the government, but in the beginning it was also one of the opportunities to say, we go this way or this way, and so it's, these people, they had this experience of this Second World War, and then the next dictatorship came, in a very different kind, but in a different style, but it was like this again. And so they were, in this night when the war broke down, they were old people, they were like, that this was the last thing which should have happened, So they were all like, all this, how's it called in English, I have no idea, that all this pressure went away, and so they were crying, in the middle of the night. We all went there for sure at midnight when they opened the gate, and there were millions of people, and they were, the whole night standing there, just don't know what to do, just, and the nice thing was, it was really about the humans, it was really about the people, and not about the politicians. This night was totally independent from the politicians.
What about it now? I don't have a sense of the dynamics of the relationship with the Old East and what was the West.
You mean how it is now?
It's all kind of merged. There's no
for sure, it changed a lot. Yeah, for sure. Because but all these years, and still now you can feel the different kind of social behaviors the people have from these two sides. But now, for sure, there are new generations, and the people are mixed, and it's not so obvious anymore like it was. But it's still a big fact in Germany too.
So then, did you go to university before you went to the academy, or you said you started at the academy when you were 21?
Yeah, so it was this age. I finished school, and then the war broke down, but I went to the academy in West Berlin, and this was 1 year after the war broke down. Yeah, so I started.
And I don't have a sense of the academy in Berlin. The system of training is.
It was, the thing is, it was very focused on, not on skills and these traditional things. It was very focused on to find your expression in art and your conceptual position and these kind of things. So it was very focused on these.
So it's a conventional European art school.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any
For me, it was also a problem,
Yeah.
because after a while I thought there's something wrong for me, because I saw there's a lot of pressure in art for artists to be cool. We have this very cool art world, but after a while I was bored about it. I thought that's the reason why I started with these kind of strange paintings, because I was bored about the fact that we are hiding behind this avant-garde coolness, and I thought it's a bit boring. I wasn't interested in it anymore. I thought that I'm just a fashion part of something which happens in the time, and I was more interested in the timeless idea of honest struggles we have with our souls and our spirit. And so I thought, so what happens when I become honest, This was a very crazy idea.
I suppose it's quite evident that you have extraordinary technical accomplishment. That you can only do, you can't just decide one day to paint in this way because you want to.
Yeah.
You have to learn to do it over a period of time, and if you're not being taught it.
Yeah. I didn't learn it from my professors at the academy.
You taught yourself?
No. It was a mixture because my father, he studied with Schmidt-Rottluff, was one of the expressionists.
So he was a painter?
He was a painter too, and he studied in 1947, he started to study in the same academy in West Berlin.
So he lived through the war, he was brought up also in West Berlin.
Yeah, so my father, he was also West Berlin, but it wasn't West Berlin, it was one Berlin, So so he started in 1947. I don't know, as an 18-year-old or something. He started.
So he taught you to paint.
Yeah. So that's what I want to say. He learned a lot from these, because after the war, they thrown out for sure all these Nazi professors, and there was an empty space, and they said, okay, we make a totally new start, but we don't have the people, And so they took the old generations from the expressionists. They were old men at this time, Rottluff at this time was maybe 70 or 65.
So they were still living in Berlin.
Yeah, they came back. They came back, and they tried to make this new start. It was a big hope to say, okay, now we want to change this country, because of this horror thing what happened. And so he learned a lot from these expressionists, and that's interesting. He also met Ludwig Meidner and these guys. They painted together. And they came a bit from these Pacific times. This was not really. He said. So my father told me once that this was not really fitting anymore, because they came from the 20s. Like he said, Meidner, for example. He was in the landscape somewhere on the countryside. He had a studio, and my father and him, they walked through the landscape. There was a farmer, and he went to the farmer and said, "We are painters." The farmer said, this was this pathetic art idea from the 20s. The farmer was really not interested in this, and my father was a bit, this generation to say, okay, we don't want to talk about these past anymore. We want to have a new modern start in Germany.
So your father still painting?
No, my father died 5 years ago,
Right.
and he was 80 then, so he was born in 1928. So it's really, and but he learned a lot of skills and techniques and thinking about colors and composition and these things from Schmidt-Rottluff and this generation. And so I would say, in the end, I got a lot of this because all the talks I had with my father were based on these ideas to think about. You see a lot of narrative things here and a lot of figures doing something and so on, but I think the most effort I spend is in the abstract thing, because I think the transformation in the abstract world is, in the end, the most important we have in art, because it's not about to tell a story, it's about to transform the story into emotion and feelings. And so art is that in the end you have an illusion which is a part of our reality, so I think that the emotional context is much stronger than the narrative. So if you have a story, you can follow the story. That's easy for our brain. That's what we are doing all the time. And I like it in a way. But on the other hand, you have to say, okay, but I have to transform this in form and color and light and cold and warm contrast and composition, because this is what I feel and this is what remains in the end. If you go out here, you cannot remember all these scenes and things what happens here. But maybe you have still the feeling of it, So this is what I was interested in,
Yeah. But there's an implied narrative, so...
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that's not constructed.
No.
Have you ever done straight narrative? Or it's always been a kind of complex figures which assume some level of narrative? But
I think it all the time together, I think together in a way. But I also painted abstract paintings.
Right.
In
college.
But it was very interesting for me because I painted kind of like surfaces, like an area like this, and I just gray layers coming to each other with very defense colors, and it trained a lot. And it's I think that these lightning, defense, neutral colors, they are carrying the painting, So it's easy to make the strong things or the very dark things and so on. But these kind of neutral colors, they are very, very difficult. So I think, for example, if you look at the horse painting over there, the background is more difficult to paint than the horse, I think. Because it's carrying the painting in a subconscious way, you don't see it in this, there's no narrative in it, but you feel the atmosphere of the painting.
But the horse painting has an element of, as there is in this, a combination of narrative and abstraction, but in the one behind us, it's sort of overloaded with narrative.
Yeah, you're right. But in the end, it's a question how you look at it, right? It's kind of, you can see a form as the form is representing a content, but you can see for sure a form as a form feeling the content. And so this, that's maybe what Gauguin did, Gauguin was, I think, for my opinion, he was more important than Van Gogh, for example. Because Van Gogh, he took the real things and made a big expression with it. But Gauguin said, okay, I will paint a chair, but I choose the form of the chair. I invent the form of the chair, for example, or whatever, or a head, So this is one thing which is not really invented by Gauguin, but this was a revolution in the late 19th century, I would say. And but it's a very old thing. If you go to Egypt or to
You went to Egypt?
Yeah. So if you go there, they made it for sure. They weren't interested in realism, They weren't interested in naturalism, I would say. And this is a young phenomenon, The old cultures were only interested in the spiritual representation. They said it doesn't matter if the arm is not right in this position. We know how it is in natural, in real. We want to have the form like our spirit feels. We want to stretch the arm like we feel represented with our God or whatever. So this is what I was interested in from the beginning on. So I said, why is this possible? That for example, if I go to Egypt now, and I have no idea about these people. I have no idea about the content they had, about the religion they had. I know nothing in a way. But the energy of this sculpture I see, maybe, is still there. It's 5,000 years. And how can I connect, how is it possible that I still communicate with these people, and it's only because they were able to transform it in a spiritual intent, and then it's there, then it remains, and it gets something timeless. This was one of the reasons for me to start with art, was this impression of that. I think, why is it possible that there's a timelessness in this? Why is it possible?
But were your professors sympathetic to what you were doing? I mean,
no.
In this country,
no, they thought they have to be very
because
cool.
Because in this country, because I used to be at the Portugal, we would occasionally get people who were interested in narrative. And they would always have come out of an art school situation where essentially they'd been steered away from it as being in some way not what art is about, so that they felt it was dangerous.
Yeah.
And often they didn't do well at college. They felt that it was the wrong track. So
yeah. So I don't know. This is not easy to explain. The whole procedure. Why I came to this point to make this narrative again. I don't like this word so much, but
symbolism. It's never.
It's just to. It was the idea to say, okay, what happens if I'm honest in the form also, in the thing I see? Why is it forbidden to paint a figure?
Maybe we should call it representation.
Maybe
sufficiently.
Yeah. But we are also hiding now, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe.
But so why is it forbidden to paint a figure? Why is it forbidden to show really this? So nobody is painting a face because they're afraid that it's failing. It's thin eyes. And I thought all the time, okay, it's better for me to take the risk and fail than not to try it, And so I thought I want to go there, and in the beginning when I made the first of these kind of paintings, I was totally, it was so embarrassing for me, I think, and because you're so vulnerable in the moment, if you're really honest with what you do, you're very vulnerable, and you're not cool anymore. You're not, you cannot say, I'm part of the discourse of Duchamp and all these guys, So it's,
But now you've been doing it for quite some time. You're prepared to be a bit more competent then.
Sorry, again?
Now you've been working in this way for whatever it is, 20 years.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that I get a lot of reaction from people, normal people who are interested in these kind of things. And they are, in a way, a bit like irritated that it's so in the offense, in a way, I don't want to escape. I want to say, okay, if I want to make a paint, why is it not possible to say, still, I want to paint an interesting face? Why not? Let's try it. And so there's such a pressure we make to us, or to cover it with something, politically, or all these things, to make it, And so I thought, no, I want to talk about these kind of layers, this mental skin we have, about these layers we have as humans, that we don't know what humans are. We have no idea. We are totally lost in this thing. We don't feel secure in our behavior. So we need rules, we need agreements, how we can live together, how we, everything is okay, but we all know that there are different personalities in ourselves. If we go home and lock the door and we're alone, we're totally different. And so I think these kind of mental layers we have, so I was interested in looking at this, and I think our lives are so based on, 70% maybe is psychology, what we are doing and talking about, and normally. This is kind of the subtext of what we are and our behavior is. And so I was interested in this. I thought, how is it possible that I bring both together, to have this abstract intense of colors and forms, but just transforming in a way, from a content I have about the figures, what they do.
And downstairs, and then Graham said go down and look at the portraits, but they're not portraits, they're faces, but they're very specifically not portraits.
Yeah.
Would be my view.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about
Yeah, it's you know, if there's a big face in the middle of a painting, you think it's a portrait.
Yeah,
Only.
it has a face. It has a face in it, but it's not, in my definition, a portrait because it's not.
I don't think about this.
It's
if it's a portrait or not, in a way. You know.
They're not particular people. They're people you invent.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So no, I just thought about to have this focus on these faces, because I often make the things like you see around here with all these very complicated structures and compositions and a lot of drama happening. And but in the end I thought it must be possible that the same intents of what we are is in just one head, you know. And so I thought about this. There are also paintings with 2 or 3 heads on it, but the idea was this, you know, to have this quiet situation, and also composition-wise very quiet. It's just a bit out of the angle, which is, I think, necessary to have it more intense. And these are these small things, you know, so just to irritate a bit, you know, and you're following the line, you know. So this is we have this need we want to follow. You know? That's the nice thing. That otherwise we would not be here, you know. This kind of weakness we have that we want to trust in lives in a way. So this is kind of one way we have to.
What about writers? Are you influenced by? I mean, I was suddenly thinking Angela Carter in a way. There's an element of magic realism.
Okay. No, I have to say I'm not influenced by writers. No.
So you're influenced.
Maybe it's by chance.
You're influenced by psychology. You're interested.
Yeah, I thought all the time. I had this, you know, when I was younger, I've read a lot of books and so on. And there was a moment when I thought, I'm more interested in the idea that I go to the basic phenomena of what we are. You know, I don't know. It sounds very, you know, I don't know if it's working. It's just a try, you know, like in all cases. And but I thought for me it's more interesting if I invent these things everywhere I see it, you know. So I didn't want to take it from somewhere in my thing. So I thought I will look at the things, and if you really look intense, you can feel it, you know. So you can go outside and look just to a small plant grass piece or something, and you can cry about the world. For sure, we can do this because we know the whole tragedy and the whole drama, and also the whole beautiful things in life are included in this. You know, we don't have to go to dramatic places to do it. And so this was for me one of these reasons to say that I don't want to only to show something that kind of illustrate it. I want to have this as an expression, you know, that you have the feeling for something, you know. It's because it's so easy for us to follow an intellectual line to illustrate things, you know. And this is one of the enemies of art, is illustration and fashion, these kind of things, you know. And you have to.
So we've dealt with illustration. Can we talk a bit about fashion?
Yeah. Let's talk about fashion. Yeah.
Well, because I noticed in some of the literature about you, it's as if you belong to popular culture, which I don't really see.
No. But the thing is, I think that the phenomena we are handling are the same, you know, all the time. So we have these basics, we have the same questions since thousands of years, and we will have them, you know, in the future. And so if you're focused on these kind of questions, then you're everywhere in a way. And I think, and so I hope, it's also possible that everybody can understand it in a way. It doesn't matter if the people are living in Congo or in Canada, you know. So it's more a question about, so what is our behavior? What do we think about, you know? 2 years ago here I think in the British Museum was a show about the oldest art pieces in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you have seen it. And they start with a lion man, this figure with a lion head, and all these small women sculptures. They were found. I think the lion man I think the lion man is the oldest art piece we have in the world. It's 40,000 years old. And so what's the step to create this? You know? The thing is that this is the first piece that's the reason why I call it the first art piece. It's because it has no function anymore. It's not a functional object, like a tool which is decorated with an ornament or something. This is not a hand in the caverns in France. This is like a sign, I was here, or whatever. But this is an invention for just a spiritual representation. You know, it's just for the spirit. And so art starts, because it's senseless in a way, but a need, you know. And I was interested in this phenomenon. We have this need to find something which is bigger than what we are. Why do we want to be embedded in an idea which is supporting us, or give us a safe situation, you know, give us answers to everything, you know. I said it sometimes in the lecture I had in New York. I said, the thing is, we all know what a tree is, but we all have no idea what a tree is, you know. And that's the thing, we are into it, you know. So we need to find a solution how to handle this. And that's the reason why we invented thousands of gods in the history of humans. It's so strange, isn't it? And we all can invent one now, you know. So it's and in a way we have also the need to do it. We want to do it, you know. And this was very interesting for me from the beginning on. I thought, this is strange, you know. We are not convinced with ourselves, and so I don't know, these kind of procedures. I don't know. I hope to understand what I mean. You know, I'm not a religious man to say no. We want, you know, I'm interested in the phenomenon of religion. Why do we do it? You know, so this is so interesting, and it's a reason why sometimes I take, for example, very dirty places, you know, like this, like a trash mound, you know, and to say, how is it possible to have a spiritual procedure in a place like this? And it is possible everywhere. You know, in every case. And I think, in a way, we all have our own religion also, I would say, isn't it?
So, in a minute, we'll ask questions from the floor. Now, I know you haven't been to Kiefer yet, but I would be interested in your attitude to Kiefer, since I've been living with the Kiefer exhibition over the last, whatever it is, months and a half. I mean, one of the things I found interesting about the Kiefer exhibition is it's unapologetically intellectual, that he's not embarrassed about the idea of art being about ideas.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, that's what I like on him. I like this that he said.
Funny enough, I found it increasingly impressive.
Yeah, he's courageous enough to be honest. I want to, you know, also this pathetic celebration he made. That's not easy to do it nowadays, especially in Germany, you know. And but I like that he is handling it, you know. So he's working with this, and so that's what I like. But I'm looking forward to see it tomorrow at the Kiefer show. But I know for sure his work for a long, long time, and I like this.
I mean, do you see yourself as part of a post-war German tradition, or?
It's not easy, you have to say these things, right? So, for me, it's not my part. You know? I'm in my forest, you know. Okay. I have no idea, but
you're alone in your studio in West Berlin.
Yeah. But I have to say that maybe make Kiefer much more than I, but this Kiefer, for sure, is a reaction on what happened in Germany at the time before. Yeah. And this wasn't easy to find a solution how to react, you know. A lot of artists after the war made only ornaments, you know, to say, I'm totally out of everything, I just think about aesthetical positions, you know, because we were so guilty. There was no discussion about it, you know, and this was a big thing after the war that they said, how can we do art after Auschwitz, you know? This is not possible anymore, you know. We know now that we are all devils, you know, so it's, we cannot celebrate ourselves anymore like normal human beings. And so I think that Kiefer was one of the guys who tried again to think about what happens with these pathetic energies as we have as humans. It was very dangerous in Germany in the beginning. They all said, Kiefer, you know,
in fact,
careful with this guy. You know?
I found in the first room of the exhibition, which you haven't yet seen, it is a bit uncomfortable because he was going around Europe doing Nazi salutes. It's I don't know. But over time, he's invented a vocabulary which is deeply impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take questions from the floor. I hope.
Do you sometimes feel like a magician?
That's funny. Good question. I don't know. I cannot say about me, but you know, there's a phenomenon
well, you
that
play with, magic images. I think it's a correct question.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. So sometimes there's a phenomenon I have. Sometimes I feel that the paintings are there, and my job is only to paint them. So it's. I sometimes I think it's so strange that nobody paints it. Like I see it in my brain, and I think, so it's my job to do it. So and this is something sometimes for me like I feel a bit like not like a magician. I think there is a magician, that's maybe Mother Nature, and I just have to make this job, So, but the idea of magic is interesting because this is something. It's also something like a transformation from real world into a subtext, into something which is below the things, behind the things, or whatever. These things we only smell it, or we cannot see it. These kinds. And it's not easy to make it seen. That's for sure.
I mean, I should have asked, I didn't ask whether you know what you're going to paint in advance, or to do drawings.
I do drawings a bit, but not so much. So for me, the procedures.
So they're invented.
Yeah. So I start on the canvas directly.
Do you think of where you're going to go before you start? And do you think I have this idea of?
Yeah. So I start only when I have this atmosphere of painting in my head. So this is for me the most important. For myself, I describe it as the weather, of the painting. So the climate, these kind of things. So this is for me very important because in the end, I don't know how the painting will be because it changed a lot, and it's good because otherwise it's illustration again. So it's I start with for sure with the main content is clear for me, but for example, there's an interesting thing. You cannot imagine colors. You can imagine it for sure, but you cannot fix them. You cannot touch them to keep them. So if you start a painting, you make a color, you have to change your whole mood about it. Again, because you have to react on it. It's like a procedure in real time. So it's a very, very strange thing. So I think color is in whole painting procedure. Color, for example, is a bit like music. You cannot remember it and you cannot imagine it in a way a bit. For sure you can remember colors, but the whole atmosphere of color, which is coming to your stomach, I would say, is really not easy to get. You cannot fix it. And so that's the reason why you have to react on colors a lot. If you have a cold surface here and you're coming with a warm there, and these kind of things, it's a bit like music playing in the moment you do it. And then you have all this experience often only if you see the painting. If you went away, you remember just an atmosphere of it. That's, I don't know, for example, if you know a friend, he had a t-shirt on in very pink, whatever. 2 years later, you remember that he had this energy power t-shirt, but you said it was yellow. And because you don't remember the color, but you remember the energy of the color. It's one of these things. I don't know. There are a lot of these procedures in painting.
So is that one of the main reasons why you use a lot of very luminous, very bright colors in your work?
I wanted to spread it. I said. I thought for myself, like we had with these neutral defense colors which are carrying a painting. You use them normally in paintings to make the painting nice and to make the bridges between the very strong and very deep and so on. And I thought so my idea for the atmosphere of a painting was to say I go in both directions and leave away the middle, So I go in very defense colors, like grays or, and then on the other hand in very strong colors. And this is very dangerous to do because normally in a school you would learn for painting that it's not possible, you know, it's falling, you know, it's not connecting each other anymore. But I think if it's possible, it's very interesting, because then you go on the edge of this kind of feeling. And my feeling of our time is a bit like this. You know, we are not so much anymore in this middle harmonized position.
At the back, and then the front. Yeah.
When you talk about climate and atmosphere in this painting, do you see, is there a particular thread that that you have? Is this, for instance, do you see it as a series? This particular, these
The whole,
works, yeah.
You mean the paintings? Which
Yeah, they have this climate, this atmosphere. Do those atmospheres have a kind of theme, you know, or
this
emotions?
is interesting, because now we could make another talk about all the things we cannot talk about. You know, this is a strange thing, because you're right. So in a way, I had an atmosphere for myself, how I want to have the painting look like, you know. And for sure, this group, because they're all in the last year, you know, it's one year work, and so I felt in this atmosphere. But in the end, it's so strange, because there are so many things in the fog, I would say. You cannot really describe it, how you feel.
But it's a sequence. I mean, of course, there's in the way people buy them or even look at them. But can you reconstruct which ones you did in which order? Is there a sense you do?
Sure, yeah, I know everything. yeah. So, it's
you don't have to tell us, but it would be...
No, that would be boring for you.
No, but I think it's a quite interesting thing, whether you do, you know, a single one and then mass composition as a way of responding and reacting.
Yeah, so it's a strange thing, because on one hand I do them all in 1 year, so it's kind of procedure, and I start with a lot of paintings at the same time to fix the ideas, and then I focus on one. So in the end, I'm not making a series of paintings.
So they are a set.
Yeah, they are all single paintings for myself, but for sure they're connected, you know, and they, you know, they are bridges to others, and I don't know. In the end, I know every moment and every decision. I know every color, every form, you know, and all these fights I had with these paintings, you know. And so it's I was just visited some of my collectors, and I came to their house, and there was a painting of mine. I was really a bit like, oh God, you know. There's again this feeling of what I had when I made it.
This was in the Arizona desert.
Also in the Arizona desert. I was there 3 days ago. I was there
after being kidnapped.
Yeah, you're right. By the driver. Yeah, it's also the driver.
That was a question in the front. Yeah.
When you look at your paintings, you're reminded of the medium of paint all the time, because you've got splashes of paint.
Yeah.
So is painting itself a theme for you? Is it a celebration and an assertion of painting?
Yeah, very good question. Because these are the two things, right? So you have on one side, you have this illusion painting, like to create an illusion of a three-dimensional room, but we all know it's just made on a surface, on a fabric with color. And on the other side, you have the material color by itself. And so, and I use this sometimes to have it in there, you know, like a step in, you know, in a way it's one-to-one, it's real size, isn't it? In that moment, if I paint a fluid and it's fluid oil color, then it is one-to-one, it's realism in a way, you know. And so I have sometimes these breaks in the painting by itself. But in general, I have to say that in the end, the most important is the art piece by itself, you know. And so, but sometimes I use it. Yeah, you're right. I like the idea to have this break in it from time to time. So not everywhere. But,
Yes.
Maybe as an extension of that question, I'm interested in the nature of painting as a medium, and in a way the survival of painting as a medium after the discussions in the mid-20th century about decor painting.
yeah.
And what is it that I suppose appeals to you about using painting as a medium, and perhaps the timelessness universality of painting as a medium?
Yeah, so I think it doesn't matter which media we use. You know, it's about art in the end. We hope it's about this, and so it's a decision you make. So I'm not against other mediums. For me, painting is fitting the most. And
actually,
so
one of the good things is it doesn't feel that you are making a statement about painting.
Yeah.
In my view,
Yeah.
it's as if you work with the medium comfortably. It's a natural medium. It's not trying to establish or re-establish the status of painting.
Yeah. No, you're right. So, but in the end, it's a question about what kind of possibility you want to have. And I think painting has still a huge possibility. You know, so you can make dots here and say it's the universe. You know, so you can make proportions. You can invent everything in a way. And this is something I was interested in, you know, that I can invent my own language every day again, you know. So this is a different thing. If you take real things like this, it's there, you know, it's real. And so then you have to have a different decision thing. So I think it's more a question about the character, what you want to do. And I'm really not making propaganda for painting, you know. For me, it doesn't matter. If I see a good installation, if I see a good video, whatever, if it's art, it's art, you know. I'm not interested in this. But I think it's surviving, painting is surviving because of this huge amount of opportunities you have. And for sure, our instinct of trying to find an illusion, you know, which is, you know, we want to follow this illusion what we have, you know, and that we say that this illusion is not something very artificial. It's not something somewhere else, you know. This illusion is a part of real life. We are into it. It's, you know, we are crying in a cinema. We know it's fake, but we still cry. You know, it's so strange. And you know, it's in our normal life we would never accept this, you know. So it's a very, very interesting fact that we are totally in these illusions, you know, everywhere in our life. Although if you take relationships, two people love each other since 20 years, you know, they both have no idea who they are, you know. They still live with a lot of illusions, and that's nice. We don't have to blame them, you know. They're part of us. And that's the reason why we do all this. That's the reason why we follow good music, like James. Yeah, he is doing this thing. And so on. So we follow these things because we want to follow. You know, we want to see a face even in clouds. Come on, what a boring idea. But we do it because we hope there is something, or whatever. You know, we find it everywhere. So we cannot say that we really know each other or something. And I think it's one of these impressive plans of nature that we don't know it. You know, this is one of the great ideas of nature, that we are in this struggle all the time, that we get something and we lose something and all these things. So it's a procedure of an absurd situation we are in. And that's the reason why we are running and doing, and you know, and so I like it in a way, and I like the idea that we want to follow these illusions, and we take them as our life. You know, if I see a guy walking through the street and he looks a bit strange, you know, in my fantasy, this guy is totally crazy. You know, but I think my life is richer. If I try myself, if I believe in myself and my lie, you know, I created this lie. But for me, it was so nice. It was, for example, when I was very little, and in radio, all these American pop songs were there, you know, or I listened to U2 and these bands or whatever, and I never got the text, you know, I had no idea, and it was so great because I had, for each word, I had an illusion about the content. You know what I mean? Just of the expression, how he was singing it, for example. And later I got the text and I said, okay, it's just about a love song. So it was much more for me, you know? So,
okay, I think we've got to the point after that wonderful description of the comfortableness of illusion,
Yeah.
we will finish and go away into the street.
Yeah.
Enjoy the memory
Thank
of
you
the
very much.
discussion. Thank you.